Hi guys! Today we're going to talk about using the Pythagorean theorem, and this goes with the same learning goal that the last video did. I can use the Pythagorean theorem to find any missing side length of a right triangle. In the last video, we talked about using the Pythagorean theorem to find the length of the hypotenuse of a right triangle, and in this lesson we're just going to talk about how to use the same theorem, the Pythagorean theorem, to find any missing side length. So remember that the legs of the triangle are the two sides of the triangle that make up the right angle, and they're also the two shorter side lengths of a right triangle. And the hypotenuse is the longest side, the side that's across from the right angle. And remember again also that the Pythagorean theorem only works for right triangles. Let's remind ourselves of what the Pythagorean theorem says. Remember that the Pythagorean theorem says that if you have a right triangle and you take the lengths of the two legs and you square them and then find that sum, that is going to be equal to the square of the length of the hypotenuse. So basically we summarize that as a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And we can use this same theorem if we know the length of the hypotenuse to find one of the lengths of the legs that's missing. It's just going to give us an equation that we need to solve. So if you look at the triangle down below, we know that the length of the hypotenuse is 20 feet, and we know that the length of one of the legs is 12 feet, and we want to find the length of the other leg of this right triangle. A squared and b squared, or a and b, can be the length of either leg. So it doesn't matter which one of those I substitute 12 in for, but I have to put the length of the hypotenuse in for c. So when I rewrite this equation, putting in the values that I know, I'm just going to say that 12, the length of one of the legs, squared, plus the length of the other leg squared, which I don't know, equals the length of the hypotenuse squared. And I can square those two values and figure out what they are. So I have 144 plus b squared equals 400. And now, in order to solve this equation, I am going to do the opposite operation of what is happening to b. So right now, 144 is being added to b. I need to undo that by subtracting 144 from both sides of my equation. And so when I subtract 144 minus 144, I get 0. 0 plus b squared is b squared. And that is going to be equal to, let's see, this would be 6 and 5 and 2, 256. So b squared equals 256. In order to undo squaring, which I want to do because I want to find b all by itself, I need to take the square root of both sides of this equation. Square root of b squared is just b. And the square root of 256 is what number times itself equals 256. And I can use my calculator to do that. So I can do 256 and then hit my square root key, and it turns out that that is 16. So b equals 16. So what that tells me is that that missing length of the leg that I needed from over here in my triangle, that this length right here is 16. So I'm going to do one more example like this, and then I think you'll be ready to try this on your own. The bottom of an 18-foot ladder is 5 feet from the side of a house. Find the distance from the top of the ladder to the ground and round to the nearest tenth if need be. We want to know if we climb all the way up to the top of this ladder, where it's leaning against the house, how high off the ground will we be? I know if you're someone like me who's afraid of heights, that might be a very important question. So I'm going to set this up again using my Pythagorean theorem. So remembering that that is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And I'm going to substitute into that equation what I already know. One of my leg lengths is 5 feet. And again, it does not matter which variable I substitute 5 in for. So this time I'm going to substitute 5 feet in for b, just to show that we can do that for either one. So I'm going to leave this as a squared plus 5 squared equals, and the length of my hypotenuse, the longest side opposite the right angle, is 18. So I'm going to substitute 18 in for c. So now I need to figure out what these two amounts are. So I know that 5 squared is 25. I do not have 18 squared memorized, so I'm going to use my calculator for that and do 18 squared, and that turns out to be 324. So I can write that in here. And now again, to solve this equation, I need to undo my operations, and I'm going to do my order of operations backwards. So I'm going to start with adding here. In order to undo adding, I am going to do the inverse operation, which is subtracting. So I end up with a squared plus 0, which is just a squared. And then 324 minus 25 should give me 99. So now I'm wondering, well, what is the square root of 99? I don't think that that's going to come out to be a whole number, because I know that 10 squared is 100, and this is only one less than that. So I'm going to use my calculator and push 99 and take the square root of that. You can see that that is going to be an irrational number, because it's not the square of a perfect square, but I'm going to round this to the nearest tenth because that's what this problem asked me to do. So I have 9.9, and the 9 is followed by a 4, which tells me to leave the 9 alone. So I am going to round this. I should probably show that I took the square root of both sides and got a equals 9.9 feet. So if I climb up that ladder, I am going to be almost 10 feet off the ground, which that doesn't seem too bad to someone who's afraid of heights, so I think I'll be okay. Here are your free response and multiple choice questions, so please pause the video now and answer these two questions.